Hi, I'm Russ with the Chicago Apple User Group. Thanks for coming to our YouTube page. Our video this week is about security, and specifically how you can set up either an individual file or group of files and transfer them to someone else, and that person is the only person that can open it up. While you can do a little bit of this with, for example, Microsoft Word or Excel or Apple Pages, there is a way to do it built into the Macintosh operating system for free, which is great. And the really good news is you can do this with any kind of file and as many files as you want. So it's a really great security tool, and we're going to look at how to do that in just a moment. Each of our videos this month also highlights some aspect of U.S. history, and this month is going to be all U.S. history as a kind of a supplement to the tech videos. So this week's video is about Governor Thomas Jefferson. Governor Thomas Jefferson is the same person who wrote the Declaration of Independence and would later on become the third president of the United States. This particular issue is one I had not heard of until I visited his house in Virginia, which he calls Monticello, which is Italian for Little Mountain. And it's the midnight ride of John Jewett. And I said, John Jewett? What about like the midnight ride of Paul Revere? Well, Paul Revere did have a midnight ride, but so did John Jewett. And John Jewett's story is a lot less known, but I think potentially a lot more important. And the connection to the security trick we're going to show is really, really, really nice. So stay there, and let's begin with the story of the midnight ride of John Jewett, and following that, how you can protect any file or group of files, safely transfer them to someone else so that only the recipients can open them up, and do that in the Macintosh operating system for free. Let's get started. What we're watching here is an aerial view of Monticello, which was put together by some architecture students from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and you'll see them very clearly credited at the end of this short video. What actually happened was the night of June the 3rd, the British were invading Virginia, and a gentleman named John Jewett, who sometimes goes by the name of Jack Jewett, overheard that they were going towards Charlottesville, which is very close to Monticello, and he figured out their intention, their goal, and that no one had protected Thomas Jefferson. And in fact, Monticello was wide open, so it would be no problem for the British to get up to there. And then once they're in, of course, they could do whatever they wanted. The only problem was climbing up that mountain, which you can see in this video right here. So John Jewett mounted his horse, did an all-night ride, 40 miles, and scarred up his face from crossing the trees and many other things. Made it to Monticello about 4:30 in the morning. Thomas Jefferson was awake because he was an early morning person, actually working in his garden. John Jewett warned him. Thomas Jefferson was completely calm, totally in control. Thomas Jefferson got his wife, his kids, his servants out. A couple of hours later, while Thomas Jefferson was still collecting his papers, quite honestly, a neighbor came by and said that the British were only about 10 to 15 minutes away. Thomas Jefferson, ever the scientist, got his telescope out and confirmed that that was in fact correct. So then he escaped by a secret way and went to freedom. When the British got into Monticello, they could not get what they actually were coming for, which is, of course, Thomas Jefferson. So even though they could get in, the very thing that they were looking for literally escaped them. The only thing they did find was his personal butler, a gentleman named Martin, and they asked Martin where Thomas Jefferson was. Martin, of course, knew, and Martin wouldn't budge, so they threatened to kill him. They put a gun at him and said, "Tell us where Thomas Jefferson is or we'll kill you." Martin was a slave. They were offering him freedom if he confessed, but he knew the freedom would come at an enormous price, so he did not budge. He protected his family. The Hemmings, as well as Thomas Jefferson's family and all of those. The British respected him, did not harm him, let him go. They went to Charlottesville trying to find more people. By then, John Jewett had already gone there. All those people had escaped, so the British left the property empty-handed. So even though they could get into Monticello, the very valuable thing they wanted was protected, and they couldn't get it. Imagine if it had turned out differently. All of this thanks to the midnight ride of John Jewett. I think that is the most amazing story about the midnight ride of John Jewett, who is sometimes called Jack Jewett, and the fact that his ride saved Thomas Jefferson and all those other people. I mean, imagine the difference of the history of the United States and the world, actually, if the British had succeeded in either kidnapping Thomas Jefferson or any of a number of other people. The difference would have been just enormous. So it's a very important event in U.S. history. What we're going to look at right now is how to do something that I think is pretty amazing. So we're going to start by creating a blank document in TextEdit. And let's just create a new document. Let's make the font bigger, Russ. And we'll just say that the document has confidential information. All we're going to do is just save this to the desktop. So confidential file on the desktop. Nothing big here. You can actually put more files and more kinds of files, but just to save time, because it's exactly the same process, we're only going to use one. In order for this to work, you have to have a folder. So we're going to go to File, New Folder, and click on that. That makes a folder. Let's put it Ross County Information. And I'm going to drag and drop this document into the folder. We're about halfway home, surprisingly. It's this easy. So next thing we're going to do is open up something called Disk Utility, which is in every Macintosh. And then what I'm going to ask you to do is go to File, New Image, Image from Folder. So again, in Disk Utility, go to File, New Image, Image from Folder, and click on that. It's going to say, what folder do you want? Well, this one. Hit Choose. And it's going to say, okay, thank you. And what I want to focus on here right now is this right here where it says encryption. Right now it says none. You do have two choices, and I'm going to use 128-bit encryption. And I'm going to put a password on this. And say choose. So now this folder is password protected, so when I make it, by clicking Save, it's going to gather all the information. Hello. And it's now done. Yay. So what just happened? And again, to quickly review, in Disk Utility, File, New Image, Image from Folder, and again, this is the same exact thing. Select that, and then when you do, select the level of security that you want. So now what we have is this disk image, and if this is the critical element, then double click this, and guess what you get? You get a password requirement. So if I put in some garbage, doesn't open. Put in some more garbage, doesn't open. But if I put in the correct password, it will then open up, and I can then open up my document. Obviously, the other half of the trick is not to allow this, which is of course unprotected, anywhere, so bye-bye to that. And you can now share this document with someone, and then maybe text them the password or something. Obviously, don't include in a regular email. And the only person who can open this up is the recipient. And this works for any number of documents, no problem, and the only limit is the limit of data that you can transfer. So use this to protect and send confidential information to people you care about. Whether that's instructions to a babysitter, notes to an attorney, anything like that, you can password protect any file on your Macintosh and send that confidentially to whomever you want. And again, only that person with the password is able to actually open it up. So, thank you for joining us this week. It's been a pleasure having you. If you'd like to learn more about the club, our club's website is www.chicagoapple.org. This is a member-driven organization, and if you're a member, thank you very much, because your support definitely makes this happen. If you'd like to join us, our membership page is listed there. And again, feel free to go there, and you can definitely join us. If you'd like to join our email list, again on our website, There's a page to join our email list. Just sign up there and you'll get a series of announcements. We never sell your information to anybody. We don't need it, quite frankly. So thank you again, and we will see you next week in next week's installment of some really interesting stuff from U.S. history that ties in very strongly to stuff that you can do on the Mac and iOS systems. Thanks. Be safe out there. Bye now.